Welcome to Real Estate Investing Unscripted, a podcast from Fund That Flip, where we explore some of the most creative, innovative, and inspiring stories from the real estate investor community. With expert tips and success stories you won't hear anywhere else, you'll come away with inspiration on how to improvise in the unscripted world that is real estate investing, so that you can dominate your next real estate deal. Now your host, founder and CEO of Fund That Flip, Matt Rodak.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Real Estate Investing Unscripted. I'm your host, Matt Rodak, founder and CEO of Fund That Flip. And today we have a very special guest. He's, I would go as far to say, somewhat of a celebrity even in the real estate investing world. He hosts the world's longest running daily real estate podcast, where he's interviewed guests like Barbara Corcoran and Tony Hawk. He has authored several books. He runs a really awesome conference out in Denver, which we'll talk a little bit about here towards the end of the show. And he owns more than $400 million worth of real estate. And overall, he's just a really great guy. I am honored to call him a friend. So with that, Mr. Joe Fairless, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. And looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, and I guess I should add to that list, I guess, a new father. So congratulations on the birth.
That is true. Yes. Yeah. 2.5 months now. We got a daughter. So yeah, life has changed. That's for sure.
I can only imagine. So we have to put that at the top of the list, I guess, of your credentials now. But
there you go. That's right.
So anyways, you do a lot of different things as mentioned in your intro, but maybe tell us a little bit about your real estate business, kind of what you guys do, what you're focused on, how you operate, and just kind of give everybody here that's listening a sense of what that looks like.
Yeah, and it's interesting. There are a lot of different platforms and activities I participate in, but it's all focused on one thing, and that's apartment investing. So everything that you mentioned at the beginning of the show in introducing me, and everything that I do on an ongoing basis is focused on apartment investing. And so my business that I co-founded with Frank Rossler, who's my business partner, is Ashcroft Capital. That's our company. As you mentioned, we've got now $470 million worth of apartment communities. We partner with high net worth individuals, and we buy apartment communities that are stabilized, so they're cash flowing day one, but they're value add components to them. And the other things you mentioned, the books, and I've got the podcast and the conference. That's all. Those are all different things I do to help grow the apartment investing business. So the conference that I host in Denver with a co-host of mine, and the books I write, and the podcast I do, that helps the apartment investing business. And that's the approach that I've taken with our company, where there are certain aspects that lead to success, not only in real estate, but also in business in general. And one of them is ongoing commitment to personal development. And, with the podcast, I've interviewed over 1,600 people. We were talking about before we started recording. I've got 1,600 episodes of my podcast. Yeah, it is crazy. And what that means is, I was thinking about the other day, I've probably interviewed more real estate investors than anyone else in the entire world. I don't know of anyone else who has interviewed more real estate investors than I have in the entire world. So I've learned some stuff along the way, and I interview not just apartment investors. I interview fix and flippers. I interview founders of successful companies like yourself. I interview people who do wholesaling, storage, commercial or retail, etc. And so I have a commitment to learning on an ongoing basis. That has certainly helped me and the company Ashcroft Capital grow. But then also, through like the conference, the relationships that are established, and also learning, that's helpful. Then with the books, I have ability to reinforce those lessons by putting them on paper. But then also when I share it out with other people, that helps people learn more about my thought process, which in turn, if they like the thought process, then they reach out to me. And then if they're a accredited investor and they're looking to passively invest, then that helps grow our network of investors. So it's an intentional approach to personal development and also business growth that I take with all those things, but everything ladders up to apartment investing.
Yep. And I think it's, if you have any doubts that what Joe's talking about works, I think, we can talk next about how you got started and how long you've been at this. But, I think what's interesting is like we got connected about at the same time we were starting our collective businesses. And it's just been incredible to see how much you've done in such a short amount of time. I know it's probably 4 or 5 years now we're going on, but still like $470 million worth of real estate, 1,600 episodes recorded, 2 books published, a conference that you guys are going on, the third or fourth year doing the conference now, I think?
Third. Yep.
Third.
Yeah, third.
All of it's happened in a rather short amount of time, right? Like that's like some people's lifelong achievements. So like you packed into 4 years. Talk to us a little bit about what you were doing before this, kind of how you got interested in real estate, how you got started, and kind of how how that's led up to where you're at today.
Well, yeah, and I think the way I've scaled so quickly is I found the right team members to help me because I've taken a honest assessment of my skill sets and what I'm good at and what I'm average at and what I'm not good at. And then simply bringing on team members to help me or partner with me on things I'm average at or I'm not good at. Because, everyone knows that if you're good at something, then check that box. But if you're average at it, you're going to fail in this day and age in business. And if you're not good at it, you're certainly going to fail. What I was doing before, I graduated from college from Texas Tech University, and I moved straight from Lubbock, Texas, to New York City. And I was a junior project manager at an advertising agency making $30,000 a year. That doesn't go too far in New York City. So I was living in East Flatbush, Brooklyn, which at the time was statistically the busiest police precinct in all the 5 boroughs of New York City. Based on how many crimes are taking place per precinct. And I moved from there to East Village. I lived there for 9 years. So I was in New York City for 10 years. And during that time, I climbed the corporate ladder in my advertising career. I went from junior project manager making $30,000 to the youngest VP of an advertising agency on Wall Street or near Wall Street. And I was making around $150,000 there. And I realized I had a goal of making $100,000 by the time I was 30 years old, salary. And I think I accomplished that by my 28th or 29th birthday. And I realized once I accomplished it, that wasn't really what I was after. I accomplished a monetary goal, but I wasn't fulfilled by what I was doing. So I changed agencies, from one agency to another. The reason why was because I was going to work on more nonprofit stuff, and that still didn't scratch the itch. So I did what I sampled life experiences while I had my full-time job in advertising. And I learned stand-up comedy, which I'm terrible at. I just took a class, that's it. But I ended up performing at Gotham Comedy Club, I think it's called. Yeah. And I performed in front of a very friendly audience of coworkers. So it made it less nerve-wracking. But I did that. I also was writing a book on how to have a remarkable career, not my career, but other people. So I was interviewing other people who had remarkable careers. I interviewed the Soldier of the Year. I interviewed a very high-level executive at Southwest Airlines and some other people. So I was writing a book. I was learning stand-up comedy. I was also teaching a class on how to buy single-family homes in cash-flowing markets. So I lived in New York City at the time, and I was not able to afford anything in New York City, so I bought in Texas, where I was from. And my friends were wondering how was I doing that? Because I was making a couple $100 a month on each of the homes at the time I was. And I started telling them, and then so I taught a class on it eventually. And so I started teaching class. And what I realized by sampling life experiences is I realized what I really want to do more of. I think that was really helpful for me to test things out while I still had a full-time job and sample certain things. And as a result, I left my advertising profession, and I ended up doing real estate full time. But of course, when I left, I realized, well, prior to it, I thought through this, but I wouldn't be able to pay for or get approved for a mortgage for a single family home. So I could, however, partner up with people who wanted to partner with me on larger deals. And when I taught some people in the class, what I was doing, I heard, hey, this looks good, but if you ever do something larger, let me know. I'd like to partner up. I heard that a couple of times, and I realized that I had customers before I had a product. And anytime as a business owner, you have customers before you have a product, well, keep on going. Like, do that thing, assuming that you care about that thing, because you're on to something, my friend. And so I had customers before I had a product, and then I simply started looking at deals, and off I went.
One thing led to the next, and before you know it, you had a couple $100 million of real estate.
Happened overnight. There you go, just like that. No challenges in between whatsoever.
my father-in-law often says, he's like, look at you, Matt, you're a 5-year overnight success, right? Like,
yeah.
And I think that's kind of true. I think you hit on something, right? And any aspiring entrepreneurs out there, whether you're in real estate or not, I think Joe hit on a good point. You know, a lot of people think about, man, it's really hard. And if I could just build this app, right? If I could just, create this legal structure, and you invest all this like time, energy, effort, money into coming up with a product without first figuring out if you have customers for that product, right? So I think, fortunately for you, you had it the other way. You had a product. It was actually the wrong product, right?
Right.
And you listened to your customers and said, "Oh, this is what they want. Let's go create that product instead."
Yep.
Really interesting. So another thing you hit on there that I'd like to maybe have you talk about for a little bit is you mentioned that you've been fortunate to have folks around you to really help you build the business, and you've done that intentionally too. It sounds like by first starting with a personal assessment. Maybe just give some pointers on like what does that look like? Is that kind of like just a reflection? Is it looking at your experience? Like, how did you determine, okay, I'm good at these things, and I'm going to need help at these other things, and then like kind of building the team around those things that someone else can do better than you can?
Yeah, it's a 3-step process. First is you've got to know what the successful people in your industry, or what you got to know what is required in order to be successful in your industry. You have to know the skill sets that are required. You have to know the different departments for the best in class companies that you're going to be competing against. Are what departments do they have in their company? So one is to be educated on what are the best in class people that I'm competing against doing, and what are they really good at? What are their skill sets? Because we've got to have some sort of roadmap to follow. 99% of the stuff any entrepreneur does has been done in some form or fashion by someone else. Most people aren't sending a rocket to Mars. Or doing Elon Musk type of stuff. Most people are taking aspects of businesses that have been there, done that before, but putting a unique spin on them based on unique skill sets or a differentiating feature for the most part. And so first is to identify what other people are doing that are successful in what you want to do. And then the second is to list those things out. And then the second thing is to see which one of those things, or how many of those things do you enjoy doing? For example, for my business, there are basically three components to be successful. One is you have to have money to do deals. Two is you have to have the deal. And three is you have to execute successfully on the deal. You do those three things, you got money, you got the deal, and you successfully execute, you're going to grow your business. So when I look at what I enjoy the most, what I thrive in, and just what's fun to me, it is the money part. Having relationships with investors and helping identify the right opportunities, but primarily having those relationships with investors. And so the way that I've structured the company that I co-founded with my business partner is he primarily focuses on the execution, and then we have a team that focuses on the acquisition. And so and he oversees the acquisition, and I'm involved in some capacity in the acquisition, but we all focus on what we uniquely enjoy about the business.
Yep.
And when we do that, then we're setting everyone up for success. I mean, think about, LeBron James, if he were at a position like, I don't know, center or something, well, that's not freeing him up to do what he really needs to do. I am not comparing myself to LeBron James. I'm simply saying, with that example, you want to set up your players, your team, in the best way for them to thrive based on their unique skill sets.
Yep.
And so when you're creating companies, same thing. You want to set up your company so that you can thrive based on your unique skill set. And most likely your unique skill set ties back to what puts a smile on your face.
Yep.
What you enjoy doing. And when you enjoy doing it, you're going to do better and you're going to do it longer. And the key here is consistency over a period of time. And so the first step is to identify what successful companies in your space do. Second is to identify which one of those or ones of those characteristics you will focus on. And then the third step and the final step is simply bring on team members to focus on the other areas. And that's it. I mean, that's the 1, 2, 3 step process for scaling a company in a relatively short period of time and doing it in a way that sets everyone up for success, not only in the short term, but also in the long term, because everyone's doing stuff that they really enjoy doing. Therefore, they thrive.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I think very well said, and it sounds super easy when you say it. I think one of the challenges, perhaps, for people to just kind of be aware of is I think part of is the second bullet point that you have, right? And I think this was hard for me, is letting go, right? Like, as part of this is, if you're going to bring other people on to do some of this stuff, you also have to empower them to do it, right? And to do it maybe a different way than you would do it. Because you hired them for a reason that is exactly that. They should be better at you than doing that thing, right? So part of it is, I think, a little bit of humility, and willingness to let go. Otherwise you get stuck. There's no way to go up.
Yep. And it's strange because I don't have a problem letting go.
Yeah. Good for you.
That's never been an issue. That's never been an issue for me. Whenever I know what I enjoy and what I don't enjoy. And so the areas that I don't enjoy, I have no problem bringing on someone to focus on that area that they enjoy that I don't enjoy. I have zero problem with that. Now, I have to have a level of competency in that area in order to do some checks and balances with them to make sure that it's being done effectively. But they are going to be much better at it than I am. And I just don't have that chip in me, for better or worse. That's just not something in my personality where I have a problem. So consequently, I have no tips for anyone who does who does have a problem letting go. Because it's just not in my nature.
I have a little bit of a letting go problem, and the tip that I can share, I guess, is do it once and like actually fully let go and like feel how good it feels. And you'll want to keep doing it. I mean, that's it, right? Because it just frees you up so much to go actually work on the things you like to work on, and ultimately you end up getting a better result because of it. So thank you for sharing that. Again, some really cool stuff on how you've grown your business, and it's been a pleasure on this end watching it grow. Another thing that I'd love to have you talk about and kind of just pull us back a little bit more into more specifically real estate is, and you mentioned it, even when you were getting started buying single family houses, is this idea of buying for cash flow. I know it's something that you really preach and believe in terms of your personal investments, but also a lot of the messaging and coaching that you provide out into the general real estate investing universe. Talk to us about, why cash flow has been the big thing that you guys have focused on, and why you think it's the right thing to focus on as opposed to cap rate or any other kind of valuation metric that, someone could try to prescribe towards a new acquisition.
The number one question I get right now is, what are you doing to prepare for the market correction? And the number one answer I give is, we buy cash flowing properties from day one. They're all value add properties. So when a property, when the correction takes place, which I believe it will, I just don't know when, we'll simply hold on to that property and we'll cash flow. We won't cash flow as much as we'd like to cash flow, because we're going to scale back or even discontinue the renovations on the property. So we'll stop or slow down the value add process, but we bought a cash flowing property from day one. And so it's in my opinion, it's a more conservative approach than buying a property that's completely distressed and it doesn't cash flow, and you turn it around, you make a good chunk of money, but you can also lose a good chunk of money, because what if the market turns? And I recognize who I'm speaking to right now. And I recognize the fix and flip model. So, I'm treading lightly here, Matt, but, just in general, I believe buying cash flowing properties, is a safer investment than buying a property that's distressed and not cash flowing or making any money at all. I've interviewed 1,600 investors, approximately 1,600 investors, and people who got burned in 2008. One of the things that happened was, they didn't have a cash flowing property, and that's a problem whenever you lose your job in the market crash, because now you don't have the income to pay that property or follow through on the renovations.
Got it. So, right, for you, it's a risk return equation that you've measured, right, and said maybe we're not on an IRR basis going to capture the types of returns that someone that's perhaps investing more speculatively or taking bigger swings, but a lot of baseball games have been won on singles and doubles. Is that
right?
That kind of the approach?
Yep.
Gotcha. So is there like a kind of a threshold in terms of occupancy or amount of free cash flow that you guys are trying to target on kind of the way in? Like, is it like we just need to be cash flowing enough to cover our expenses, and maybe modeled out for, a higher vacancy rate or a reduction in rents? Or are you really looking for, if we did nothing to this thing, it's going to be okay? We see some opportunity kind of on the edges to get a couple percentage points here and there on rents, or like where on that spectrum are you guys?
Yeah, it's simply got to be cash flow positive when we buy it. And normally, if we're buying at a 5 cap, then not factoring in debt, there's your return.
Yep.
So as long as it's a cash flowing property day one, and there's value add components to it, and then obviously we have other variables that we consider, but from a cash flow standpoint, that's what we look at.
Got it. Keeping it simple, I like to say that real estate investing, it really isn't rocket science. The only thing it really requires is discipline, right? Like you gotta have a thesis, whatever that thesis is. It could be fixing and flipping. It could be cash flow apartment investing. Like you gotta have a thesis, and then you kind of got to stick to it. Yep. You don't get additional data.
Yes, agreed.
Not to believe in that thesis.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. So let's wrap it up here with kind of the theme of the show, which is real estate investing unscripted. So as you know, and you're a planner, right? Things happen. No matter how well you kind of model things out or how well you think you're buying it, almost inevitably something's going to come up at some point if you're in the game long enough that's going to be like, whoa, that was a kind of a gotcha. Can you share with us maybe one of those experiences that you've had, or maybe one of your students or something else that you've seen that, the listeners can learn from?
Yeah. The property in Houston, owned it for 12 months. And in those 12 months, we had 2 hurricanes and 1 fire. Two hurricanes.
Sorry to laugh.
Yeah, well, everyone was safe, fortunately, and
good.
With all of the above. And the fire, I mean, it's so cliche. A resident left a candle burning, and it burned the building down.
It burnt the whole building.
I wish I had a better story. Whole building. Yeah, whole building.
Wow.
To 8 units. I mean, the property was 155 units.
Okay.
Property, and 1 building had 8 units gone. And during that same 12-month period, we had 2 hurricanes. Did not prepare for those 3 things to take place within 12 months of ownership. So the insurance covered the fire, so pretty much a neutral event from a cash flow and monetary standpoint. The hurricanes, we were fortunate that we did not get the brunt of the hurricanes. I forget the first one. The second one was Hurricane Harvey, and the water came up to the doorsteps, but did not really get into it. We didn't even need to file an insurance claim, but Houston was wrecked.
Yeah.
And getting workers to work on our property, we're in the renovation process. I mean, it was just not happening. One thing I learned from that, I call it an SOS process for when unexpected things take place. The first S is safety. So letting investors know, people on the ground, if everyone's safe, and then also their money. Okay, a hurricane is taking place. As a reminder, we have insurance that covers this, or a fire just happened. As a reminder, we have insurance that covers this. So safety for people, and then safety for their money. The second one is keeping them up to date. So the O and the SOS is ongoing communication, being proactive about it. I only had 1 or 2 investors email me about it because I was emailing them and I was being proactive and on top of it. And then the third S is, what was the third S? Summary. That's what it was. So summarizing once everything's done, just summarizing what took place, what the end result was, both, safety of people and also safety of their investment. So that's something I created as a result of going through this. And that was certainly something that was unexpected.
Yeah, it's definitely a great example of something you could just never really plan for. It's interesting you mentioned about how hard it is to get workers on site, and I don't know if any of the people you've interviewed have come up with this idea, but I used to work in the insurance business, and we were very big on like loss prevention, and one of the things that we encouraged our larger commercial insureds to do was to pre-negotiate contracts with contractors in the event of a natural disaster. So that you could actually put, especially the emergency crews of like, if you have a tree down, right, the guy's going to come out and do your tree before the next guy's because you've paid him some premium or some advance kind of down payment to make sure they're on retainer. Now, the contract's only as good as their delivery on it, but something that I don't know, maybe it's worth looking at, especially.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And Houston, and it's likely that one of these things comes through again in the next 10 years.
Yeah. If we have 1 Houston property, we probably will be selling that in the next couple of years. I don't know, but if I buy another Houston property, that's something to consider for sure.
Yeah.
Good info.
Yeah. Cool. So appreciate you sharing that. Last thing, let's talk a little bit about your conference. It's coming up here at the end of February. What is it? Kind of who shows up to it? What could people expect to learn there if they want to check it out? Maybe just give us a little rundown on the Best Ever Conference.
Yeah. So besteverconference.com is where you can learn more about it. It's heavily focused on commercial real estate and private equity, or not private, but private gaining private investors. So if you're focused on investing in deals passively and learning more about different asset classes, this is for you. If you're focused on bringing more investor capital into your deals, then this is for you. And if you're an operator of any type of commercial property or want to be, then this is for you. We don't focus as much on the residential, but we do have investors who do residential and are looking to scale their residential business. So if you've done multiple deals, then this is for you as well. So for example, I asked everyone when I was at the conference last year presenting, I asked everyone before I started talking, who's done at least 2 deals? And like 99% of the people have done at least 2 deals. So everyone there is looking to scale. And we don't have any beginning investors who attend. So if you're looking to maybe scale your flipping business, then this is a good conference because there's lots of ways to do that, or we touch on that. But if you're looking to get started in real estate, then this wouldn't be the best conference for you because this is the taking your business to the next level focused.
It's a master's class, I guess, maybe if you want to think about it.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's I believe it's February 22nd and 23rd out in Denver. We will be there. Fund That Flip. We went last year, and I can say it was probably one of, if not the best conferences that we attended last year, and we attend a lot of conferences. So, and I mean that. Check it out. If you are investing in real estate, focused more on commercial, we've got a lot of folks out there I know listening that are also accredited investors that participate on the platform. So if you're looking for perhaps other sponsors like Joe to potentially allocate some capital to, there'll be a large room full of high quality folks out there. So check it out. It's just besteverconference.com. I'm looking forward to it. It's always a fun time.
Yeah. We'll be hanging out shortly. Yeah. Looking forward to it as well.
Cool. Let's get you out of here. Really, really appreciate your time, Joe. A couple other plugs. So you run a podcast that is called you do it because I'm going to screw it up.
It's a mouthful. Yeah. Best Real Estate Investing Advice Ever.
Best Real Estate.
And then if you want to learn apartment syndication, I've got a book on Amazon. You just search Joe Fairless and it's best ever apartment syndication book. So there's no ambiguity on what the book is focused on.
I like that. I mean, we do the same thing with our name, right? Like,
right? Yeah, clearly, yeah. Fun that flip.
Fun that flip. And don't leave anybody guessing.
That's right.
If you can't remember that, just joefairless.com I think works too, right? And you've got you got links out to all that. So check out joefairless.com. Really appreciate your time, Joe. I think kind of the 3 or 4 things that I pulled out of here, if I could summarize before we cut you loose, kind of all starts with a commitment to learning. And I think you've taken that like to the extreme and it's paid off for you. So definitely an ROI out there around just continuing to improve yourself. I really liked kind of your idea of sampling different life experiences. I'm involved with a group here called the Founder Institute that allows folks to, and I went through it actually to kind of, that's actually how we met. We were introduced through someone that I met at Founders Institute. But I think a lot of people get it wrong when they want to start a business and they just quit their day job without first experiencing what it's like to either run a business or do something different. So use your time that you have out there to watch less Netflix and experiment with stand-up comedy if that's something you're interested in. So that was cool. And then the last one that I really liked is to scale. It really starts with a personal assessment. I kind of think of it as like a needs assessment, right? What do we actually need to be successful? what do I like doing? Focus on those, and then bring other people in that like doing all of the other stuff to help grow your business. So those are my 3 takeaways from the chat. I think this was really good. Anything that you'd like to pile on there?
All good.
Cool. Well, thanks again, Joe. Really appreciate you joining us. And thank you all out there listening to this episode of Real Estate Investing Unscripted. Be sure to check out our blog at fundthatflip.com. And if you have any funding needs, check us out there as well. Otherwise, look forward to next time. Your host, Matt Rodak, signing off.